All right, ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
We're all ready. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming back on the podcast. Today we have Paul and DeLaina Tonks. Some original Suncresters, and I would love everyone to meet them, including myself. This is our first time meeting. So before we get too deep in the weeds, tell us how long you lived here in Suncrest for and how you found Suncrest to start things off.
That's you, actually.
The ball's in your court.
All right. Well, we lived in Ohio for 13 years and had 4 kids there and decided we wanted to be closer to family. My parents actually moved up here to Suncrest, and I came out to visit without Paul and drove up the mountain to see where they lived and was just stunned by how gorgeous everything was. After living in Flat, Ohio, the mountains here looked absolutely amazing, even more amazing than when I grew up here. And so when Paul came out, he was driving us up the mountain. I was going to show him where I had found a house.
Yeah.
And he couldn't keep his eyes on the road because the mountains were pulling his attention. So I'm like, honey, no, you got to keep your hands on the steering wheel. And he just thought it was so gorgeous. And we put money down that same day on a lot. And we've lived in Eagle Crest since 2006.
and we're on Eagle Crest, and the great thing is our house, the back of it just faces out to Lone Peak and Box Elder Peak, and you can see the Utah Valley down there. It's basically, it's west facing on the front, but east on the back, and then we have a slope that takes off, which we like to throw our kids down on sleds and things. And
Safely?
You added sleds into that quickly.
Oh yeah, it was the view, and then the idea that we could have our kids go down the hill on
Thrown
sleds.
over the hill on sleds.
Yeah, only
Safely.
one concussion, so we survived as parents.
Only one per year.
Yeah.
Per kid.
Per kid.
So when you found, you said a lot. So fill me in there. Was there a house or was it a?
Well, so ours was the first house on our section of Eagle Crest, and we ended up buying a spec home because we could get into it sooner, but
Really?
nothing was finished on either side of us or across the street, so we put up with dust for a lot of years, which I'm sure a lot of our neighbors did as well.
I didn't think of that. So you kind of tolerated the building phase of Suncrest.
So dust and porta potties and
Yeah.
middle of the day hearing a lot of hammers and stuff, because ours was done before everyone else's.
So that happened for years, I'm guessing.
Years. It's still happening.
So do you ever have phantom jackhammer sounds in your head or like
That
powered?
stopped after a decade or so.
I think I've gotten over that. Yeah.
So that was 2006.
6.
So 06. So the neighborhood was built in like what, 2002, 3?
Yeah,
this section here.
And then Eagle Crest came later.
Yes.
So it was brand new.
Yeah.
Yes.
So was that road was it the old road before they built, is that narrow, like did you come up the Utah County side?
That wasn't open, and like it opened right before
Right as
or right
we moved
as
in.
we were moving in.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you wouldn't have had that to
Yeah.
drive up. Whoa.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Well, and they were
Wow.
pushing to get the road in because they were also finishing the elementary school,
Yeah.
because they were going to take the kids down to that school, so they needed a road to get them to the school.
So it was an infrastructure crisis a little bit. Like, so there was
Yes.
a lot of, so what we see today is nothing compared to what you were like really living in the wild kind of with the construction and the spec home being the first home.
Yep.
And you haven't moved since. You've made it your home for this long.
So we've seen it develop quite a bit
Yeah.
since then. Absolutely.
And when you moved in, did you want it to develop or did you want it to stay where it was? Does that make sense? Was there kind of like a goal in mind of where you wanted it to go?
I think we wanted a forever home, and that's kind of what we
Yeah.
did. And it's super hypocritical to be like, well, we've got our house now, so nobody else can live up here. Like, it's a neighborhood. We wanted it to be developed and to
Yeah.
turn into the vibrant community that it is today. So
That's great. And you guys I would say you're founding members in the community. I would say I'm a new member by how long you've been here for. I've been here 5 years, but you've been here for how long now? So it's 06,
18.
some quick math, 18. Is it 18 years?
isn't that crazy?
No way. Does it feel like it?
No.
How long is it passing fast because it's fun and you like it, or is it passing fast because time is irrelevant and doesn't exist?
What do you think?
I think we had kids and it just was a blur.
Yeah.
But you had 4 kids in Ohio.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So let's roll the clock back a little bit to see what drove that decision, because that's a huge decision to change states, right? And then to go to a new area in the state, right?
Yeah.
So Ohio, is it someone from there, or
So
was work
Sweetie,
there?
you want to take that one?
No, it's your turn. I get the other one.
My wife's family was here.
Okay.
You kind of mentioned that they were actually moving from Bountiful to Suncrest.
Okay.
And so that kind of started the ball rolling and thinking, well, wait a minute, DeLaina's the oldest in her family. Her siblings are going to start having kids. And it would be nice for our kids to actually know some of their cousins and things. So my dad also had some medical conditions. So he and my mom moved from California to Idaho in 2005. And it was just that thought of, it'd be good to be close to my dad in case we need to get to him quickly.
Yeah.
And being in Ohio was very difficult. So a combination of all those different things, it really comes down to we wanted to be closer to family. And driving across the plains with 4 kids in a minivan is not our idea of fun.
Well, that turned into every vacation, right? Every vacation was coming to visit family.
You come to Utah to vacation.
Right. Well,
Every
to
time.
see family, but we're going on vacation.
Yeah.
Because we
A
moved there
2-for-1 type.
13 years prior in, 1993 for Paul to go to law school.
Wow. So you're doing law school out there.
Yeah. So I went to Capital University in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow.
And then I practiced law there for 10 years.
And you got good there.
Hopefully so.
He's like, I don't know, maybe.
No malpractice.
One of my cases, so I didn't lose.
He's a good attorney.
So is playing board games with him a fun time, or is it
No.
a tough? It's not. Okay.
No, I will play word games with him, which he hates,
I will not play a word game with her.
No.
but I won't play board games with him for the same reason.
So are you both fiercely competitive? Is that what I'm sensing?
Yes.
There's a competitive, but it drew you together. Like, so how did you guys meet? Because that's what I'd love to know. Because competitive people can either love each other or hate each other. It's
Yeah.
like a really interesting. So you guys have been together for how many years? First of all.
Married for 32, together for 33.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is.
I was
a
a
big-
child bride, just so everybody knows.
You were not.
Plucked out of the compound. Yeah.
I was 7. Just kidding.
You're a junior
She's
at
only 30
BYU.
now, so I don't know how old.
Right. Thank you.
32 years.
32.
So did you just celebrate an anniversary, or is it
June.
June? So it's pretty recent.
D-Day.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's not common these days to see that long of a stint.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So what's your secret to success? What is the
Sticking with it. Through thick and thin.
owning a minivan, going to law school, and having 4 kids? That's the
Selling
secret.
that minivan at the first opportunity. Buy
That
the
is
Subaru
true.
and just, live your midlife crisis with this.
You could get a whole stock car if you're like Peter Drubin.
Right. Right.
It's awesome.
It's a sad commentary that your midlife crisis is a Subaru sedan. I don't know.
Yeah. Really going out there on a reach with
Yeah.
the Subaru.
Yeah.
It's safe though because he's a lawyer. So it
You
makes
gotta
sense.
have all-wheel drive and Suncrest. It's that simple.
Yeah. At least you have fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
I got the FJ Cruiser and I feel like I'm driving a tank around because
Yes.
it gets like 12 miles to the gallon. Yeah.
Ouch.
So it's bad. so you guys met you met before you went to law school.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
rewinding further, how did you guys meet? Was it like a by chance or what happened?
Well, we met at BYU. Nobody has ever heard this story before. Nobody ever meets at BYU,
What
right?
school is that? Is that a low?
And people just don't get, married after moving
Right.
to BYU. So that's,
Totally unique.
is all
So I was dating the guy in the apartment that he moved into. That guy moved out. We broke up, and I just kept dating
So I
the guy
moved
that
in.
lived in that apartment.
You
So-
assume the role,
Right.
like this is my.
Right.
she wanted to keep visiting the apartment, so she had to date someone in the apartments once we moved out.
Yeah.
A good reason to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But also, the roommate I was going to have, he had been living there during the summer, and I was coming in the fall. And so he kept saying, I have my roommate. His name is Paul, and
he's from the South, so
he has this thick
Paul.
Georgia
Paul.
accent.
Yeah.
Like a
He's like, you
drawl.
really need to meet him. He's got a lot of good qualities. I think
Yeah.
you guys will match up really well. So he really teed it up for me by the time I showed
So
up.
when you first met, it was with like your old friends, and you were trying to incorporate. So that must have been stressful.
I get there, I'm like, how does she know so much about me? He's like, I've told her everything about you.
Really?
Great.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
Does she know I'm trying to become a lawyer?
She knew that, yeah. So it was my senior year at BYU, her junior year at BYU.
Okay, so
I was-
barely made it out. Barely made it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, so I was a
Yeah.
history major. You were studying French and Spanish. Mm-hmm. And then I graduated in 92, and about a month or two after I graduated is when we got married.
Wow.
I worked for a year while she finished her degree for 1 year.
Okay.
And then
Can we just say how cool that is that he delayed going to law school for a year so that I could finish?
It's very romantic. If he's
Super grateful.
and he didn't have video games to play to waste time back then. Well, he might have had
Well,
some,
I had a
but
full-time
they
job.
we had
Yeah.
Tetris.
So you worked for.
Which, by the way, we had a tournament, and I'm sorry, but I won.
Should we host a new tournament in Suncrest?
Maybe 2
See if
years
she can
later,
hold
he
the-
still remembers that.
It's been so many years. But you know how you can use the arrow keys and the JK
Yeah.
keys? You can do them
I
both.
think she might be a gamer secretly. I don't even game. You know all the keys.
Well, from 1993, so don't quote me on that today. But
So 2 days after she graduated, we packed up the U-Haul and the car trailer and with my parents drove to Ohio. And I had never been to Ohio before, but I'd been accepted to law school there. And
You'd never been, but you committed to going.
yep,
What did that feel like? Because you grew up. Where did you grow up? You grew up in what states you grew up
so I
in?
grew up in Los Angeles area, California, West Covina specifically.
Cool.
and I grew up here in West Valley,
Where's that at? That's.
the West Side, where all the cops are and the hood.
She's from the west side.
Yeah,
She is from West Side.
the wrong side of the tracks.
But West Valley's is got nice areas, and I don't think it's terrible. I mean, people there's a reputation in West Valley, but everyone jokes. My wife's from Tooele, and
Okay.
Tooele's got a reputation, but all good
They're good
things come out of
people.
places.
Yeah, people.
Yeah. Well, L.A. So you left L.A. to go to at BYU.
Yep.
Okay, and then you met after your last year. You guys
Last year
met.
at BYU.
And you had one more year. Okay. And you were studying foreign language, so it was Spanish.
French and Spanish
French.
teaching.
And what drew you to French? So we chatted for a minute about
Yeah.
French specifically. Care to dive into that detail?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad served a mission for our church in France, and he came home and started a construction company. And the church needed somebody who spoke fluent French and knew construction to go to French Polynesia and live in the islands for a couple of years and oversee the building of all of the churches and stake centers there. So
Really?
I was 6. I didn't know any French. My mom didn't know a whole lot of French, but she had met my dad in French class. He drove a Corvette and spoke French fluently. And he drove up in his Corvette and said, "Hey, it's now or never. Jump in. Let's go get married." So they eloped. So French has been this running theme that was woven throughout our lives with both my parents and then also with myself. So I'm 6, and my mom says, "Okay, you are so lucky. You get to go to school and the other kids don't. And you're so lucky. Now, can you say au secours?" And so I'm 6, right? And I look up at her and I'm like, "Au secours." And she's like, "Yeah, you're going to be fine." She walks me into the school and she's like, "Now, nobody speaks English. So if you get in trouble, just yell, 'Au secours,' really loudly. It means help. Somebody will come and help you.
Is that what it
You'll be
means?
fine." That's what it means. I'm like, okay, think about how little a 6-year-old is. Your little guy's 5 and a
I
half.
remember
Like,
being 6.
6 is
Stuff was
little.
stressful. Like you could get
Yeah.
coal for Christmas types. That was the most traumatic
Right.
thing at that point.
Right.
Oh my word.
So I didn't speak any French other than I could yell help if I needed it. And I remember just sitting there and not understanding anything.
Oh my God.
It was so stressful. And I wanted people to know that I was smart, I was intelligent, I just couldn't communicate, right?
Yeah.
So I'd stand on the steps at lunch and scream the biggest words I could think of, which as a 6-year-old was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, no, I am smart. I know these big words. And after, it took about 2 months for me to become fluent because I was so little. So then the missionaries that would come from France thought that I was a little French girl because I could speak it.
So do you remember having dreams in French?
Yes.
And having because learning a language is
Yeah.
traumatic if it's not
My
your
brain
primary.
hurt.
Your brain was tired.
On the
right?
regular,
You
yeah.
sleep great though.
Yeah.
It's great sleep.
Yeah. Well, and the French
Yeah.
school system in the islands was so different. They did base 10 math. And so I'd sit at the table with my dad and just I didn't understand the language and then things were hard. So it took a lot of effort to do school. And now I can look back on it and say it was a great learning experience,
Yeah.
but I was the only white kid in the school. I got beaten up. I got teased.
got
I got
beaten up?
called names. And it was a traumatic experience. And now I'm like, wow, look at all the grit and perseverance I obtained while I lived there. But at the time, yeah, it was pretty
So
traumatic.
it kind of made you grow up really fast.
Yeah.
That's kind of gathering is that you kind of were you were like
Yeah.
the most mature kid in class. from day one because you had to survive.
Yeah.
And then when you were, how long were you there for? How many years?
2 years.
2 years.
So first
you
and
had
second grades.
fully gone through the trauma process.
Yeah.
You're there, and then you have a traumatic event again. You move away
Yeah.
from all your friends.
And then I'm the weird kid because I speak French.
You have an accent.
And I'm just like, okay, I can't win, whatever.
And that was in Utah. That was West Valley.
Back in
The
West
best
Valley.
place to speak French.
Right? Why couldn't it have been Spanish? That would have been helpful.
So when you took French in high school, how did that work with your teachers?
I had a teacher from Texas.
Like he knows the answer.
I might
with
heard
a
this story.
southern accent, and I'd sit in class and just like twitch, and finally I was like, I can't do this anymore.
You were
So
better
then-
than the teacher.
Well, from an
Yeah.
accent perspective, just because I'd learned it when I was little and she hadn't. She was the nicest lady.
So how old were you when you were doing French? Was it high school?
High school.
So some of it had faded as far as like it was all still there.
No, my parents both spoke fluent French, and we spoke a lot of French in the home. So
Wow.
yeah,
Your parents are like hardcore with the language.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tiring.
yeah. So
I feel lazy. I'm like, well, Portuguese, you'll figure
it's
it
so
out.
hard.
So since you knew more French than the teacher, what'd you do after that?
I didn't know more French than the teacher. I just could speak it with a better accent, better pronunciation. They let me take it at BYU Salt Lake, so I took college French classes, and I wanted to learn another language. It wasn't challenging for me, right? Because I'd spoken it for so long. So I took Spanish and skipped every other year of Spanish. Ended up in AP Spanish as a senior, and then did a study abroad in Mexico for the summer after my senior year. And it was fantastic, just being able to learn.
What an incredible
language.
experience.
Yeah.
So you got to experience like a wide range of cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So you really appreciate, and that I did that tie into your job you have now.
Mm-hmm.
People that know what you do. What do you do now?
So I'm the executive director at Mountain Heights Academy. It's Utah's premier online public charter school for grades 7 through 12. We followed in the footsteps of MIT when they did all of their open source curriculum release. As a university, we were the first secondary school in the world to do that same thing. So that's kind of what we're known for, is our open educational resources. And I get opportunities to travel all over the world and do presentations with some of my colleagues from MIT. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun.
It's incredible.
Don't you have a couple degrees as well?
You tossed them in there. What can we toss?
What are your degrees
What other
from?
accolades do we have? Yeah. I love that he's so. This is a great relationship because he's so supportive of your achievements. I love
So
it.
supportive.
Or he's teasing you.
He's being a pest, is what he's being. No, I have a master's degree in linguistics from Ohio State, and then
The Ohio.
oh yeah, sorry, the Ohio. You have to genuflect when you say that.
The
except-
Ohio
Find a
State
sound
University.
effect. Is there like a trumpet playing? Like. Doo, 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 doo.
Yeah, like script Ohio, and then you dot the I and hang on Sloopy and all sorts of good
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So master's degree.
In linguistics.
So were you studying the same time you were studying then?
95
Kind
to
of, a little
97.
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in law school.
We didn't have kids yet, so
Oh wow. Okay.
I taught
93 to
and-
96, and then you were teaching up where I was in high school.
Yeah.
And they had this great program where they said, if you're a teacher here, we'll pay for your tuition at Ohio State. So,
You
right?
don't say.
I do say in several languages. Yeah.
But you graduated in
Discipline.
December of 1997. What was significant about
Yeah.
that?
Who's doing this podcast?
I'm happy to have. He's got great questions. He knows the best questions to ask. I'm like, this is making my job
Give the
easy.
people what they want.
No, I had a baby and my first baby, and then graduated 10 days after she was born. So I have
No
a picture
way.
with my master's degree in one hand and my baby in the other hand.
And you're confused which one's which because
right,
you're
I'm like,
postpartum.
I don't know what's going on here. I have no sleep. Good thing I did the master's degree first. So
Wow.
yeah.
So once you had
great.
kids, did you take a time to kind of settle, or did you start working immediately with kids? And like, how did that play out?
Well, Amanda was born in December, and I went back in February. They let me do half-time. They pretty much let me do whatever I wanted. If I wanted to teach 2 classes, they'd let me do that. If I wanted 3, they'd let me do that.
Yeah.
So we just kind of took it a semester at a time and did whatever we felt like we had the capacity for. And Paul's a super supportive spouse. I feel like we have a partnership. It's not, barefoot and pregnant and cleaning the house, and you do the womanly things, and I'll take out
He's
the
making the
trash.
sandwiches
and
now. Yeah.
he does most of the cooking, TBH. So
And was that your only degree?
we used.
So you must like
There's a
school,
love.
or you hate school and you want to do a lot of it to get it out of the way. I don't know which it is, but you're still in school.
I know. I think there have only been 2 years that I haven't been in school from the time I was 6 until now, either as a teacher or a student, and sometimes both. So I have a PhD in instructional psychology and technology from BYU that I graduated
Is it 2018? 2019?
2019, 5.5 years
So
ago.
that was fairly
Yeah.
recent.
Yeah.
So you're very proactive in your education.
I love education.
Is that because of that formative trauma of moving and having? Is there something tied to that makes you drawn to that?
I am smart.
Like I'm not going to be seen as dumb. Like because it's really when you feel dumb, you feel really dumb, right?
Yeah.
Like is that kind of a driving force under there, like a current?
Probably to get
Yeah.
at the root cause of all of my
Yeah.
lifelong traumas. Probably,
But it's like
I want to
resolving the
prove
trauma.
to myself
Yeah.
that no, I can do this. Look, I have shiny degrees, and I have, I know big words.
And it draws you to the shoveling of snow as well. I can do hard stuff.
No, I let him do that.
That's me.
So we kind of see like your kind of path, and then you meet at BYU, and then there's your other half over here who's making and supporting a lot of this. But prior, so LA, we're in LA.
Yeah.
So let's roll back the clock. We're in
Yes.
LA. Let's take that journey to get to here. You grew up in LA,
Grew up in LA, West
Okay.
Covina, San Gabriel Valley, about 20 miles east of LA.
okay, and in movies, you're seeing actors walk across.
I have seen a few movie scenes at different times throughout my life, and
Really?
it's you've got Hollywood there, and it was just something it was a normal part of life. You'd have some friends who would come out of state, and you'd take them down to Hollywood and show them the sights. But no, it was a great experience being in LA for 17 years, and went to BYU, and
Yeah.
had 2 years at BYU, served a mission in Colorado for 2 years, then I came back for 2 years at BYU.
You didn't say what you minored in.
She's doing the thing.
So I was a history major, but
Okay.
I was also a music minor.
Music.
So when I was at BYU, I was in the BYU marching band for all 4 years. I was also in the jazz bands, playing solo trumpet in some of those, and wind
Trumpet.
ensemble. And I played piano back when I was growing up. So
Yeah.
to do trumpet and do theory was really easy for me. So I play piano and trumpet, and
He also has perfect pitch, which is
You do.
a curse and a blessing.
and at this
So
point,
if I play a note, will you know it?
I can usually know it. Yeah,
Really?
I usually call
Should we
it
try
relative
it?
pitch, but
Let me try it.
oh great.
I'm gonna find a note. We did this last time with Richie T, and he actually got the note.
Oh my goodness.
Can't believe this is happening again. Let's see.
He's got really good relative pitch.
Okay, we'll get it. I'm gonna see because this is interesting. Let's do.
And this is all on tape. This is
All recorded. I want to see what happens. Okay,
No pressure.
what note's that?
sounds like a G.
Well, it's probably hard 'cause it's on the piano. Let me find another one. You're close. Let's do this one.
It's the same note.
Same note.
Is it a D then?
Yes, it's a D flat. That is relative pitch. Good job.
Oh my gosh, that's
incredible. My pitch is all relative to the E note on a guitar.
Oh,
Like E. Okay.
got that?
Yeah.
You sure it's a D flat?
It was D flat. Yeah.
Okay. I'm so very deep.
I'll put it over the video. Yeah. But we
So
had
he's really fun at parties because you can say, so he's a composer. He writes music.
Really?
It's how he
I write,
proposed to me.
arrange.
And so at parties you can be like,
Wait, he proposed to you with? Is that what you said?
yes, and he will
Hold
tell you
on
that
now.
story. But at
This is a
parties
romantic
you can
guy.
say,
I had to
write a song.
Like
in
a
this
Renaissance
key.
man.
Yeah.
I had to impress her, so I had to write a song. So I wrote a song and impressed
No,
her.
it wasn't just a song. It was a 20-minute piano concerto, and it's absolutely beautiful.
5 minutes.
It's,
But it was a little more complicated.
It's in the middle
definitely.
of 10 minutes.
yeah.
So he composed the song on piano.
Uh-huh.
And is there singing or is it all instrumental?
No, just playing.
Really? Did you take lessons as a kid and then discovered that, or how did you come about doing that?
My composition, and I actually have on YouTube a lot of my compositions as well.
How can we find these? How can us as residents find you?
Type in Paul Tonks.
Paul
there are only so
Tonks?
many of us out there.
He's not the British comedian Paul Tonks. He's the Utah composer Paul
That's
Tonks.
what he wants you to believe as a lawyer, but it's
Right.
actually he's the comedian.
So just type in Paul Tonks. You'll see my face at some point. And It's just a combination of being able to do a lot of music theory and then be able to hear things, I guess, in my head. I can just compose things in my head pretty easily.
So do you think of the song in your head and then play it with your hands, or do you find it with your hands and it goes to your head? Like, what's happening?
I can do it either way.
What's best? Yeah, what do you tend to do that's best?
Lately, it seems like I might have a melody, but then I'm able to take chords and write out the chords and then kind of interplay the two together and then try to get some sort of arrangement that goes with it with the piano.
So you kind of have theory as like a kind of a bass line, like, okay, if it's a C sharp, then I can go up to the F, then it's in the right key, and then I can push the notes around, go to an augmented seventh.
And the last thing...
Nice.
Yeah,
Look at
I
him
know.
throwing stuff around like that. Ooh.
Of course, an augmented seventh would be just an octave, but
Exactly. That's the joke.
it's an eighth.
It's just thumb and pinky.
But I've also been doing a little more arranging type
I'm
things.
impressed you got that.
I did music theory.
It's like a music joke.
And my goal is hopefully this month, next month, I have kind of just an album of piano plus, I guess, strings arrangement, whatever that goes with it. I'm trying to get it on iTunes, Spotify.
So you're self-producing this, like you're recording it and everything.
Yeah, it's all done. I just have to
It's all done.
get it
It's beautiful.
put on there.
Is this guy not incredible?
He's incredible.
You married this guy.
I mean, how could you say no after he writes you a piano concerto?
That's all it took. Yeah.
But did you know he played piano before Medium because you knew everything about him? Or is that something you
I
discovered?
knew that he played the piano, but I didn't know that he played the piano and composed and was as good as he is.
So what drew you to piano is your primary instrument, and then trumpet's a secondary. Yeah. So what drew you to trumpet? Because that's a different realm.
Sixth grade, they needed someone to play in the band, and I said, I'll do it because my best friend also played trumpet, and so I just picked it up. But once you already know the theory, it was easy just to concentrate on trumpet. So
Yeah.
I was able to excel on that, and I actually had a scholarship at BYU for trumpet.
Really?
All things. Yeah.
So you committed all through college, all the years?
Yeah, so I had half scholarship, half tuition for my last 2 years.
So do you ever like kick back in the evenings and pull out the trumpet and
No, my kids kept me away from that. I did revelry one time to wake them up, and that was it.
Yeah. But you can still play it today if you picked it up.
Yeah. Matter of fact, we had Trek for the Steak about, I guess, 2-3 years ago,
Okay.
and I brought my trumpet along. So I actually did revelry in the morning. I do taps at night,
Was it fun?
and then last night I did Come Come Ye Saints.
Nice.
After that, on a hillside off the way. So it was fun to be able to take that talent and just
It's like taking it to the next level because you're like doing it in a period specific
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
Do you have like the clothes on and everything like a
oh yeah,
pioneer?
yeah.
That's
We
so
were all
cool.
pioneer dress and everything.
That's something.
Like this is the coolest I can be with the trumpet.
They didn't like me waking him up though, but besides that, it was good.
Yeah. You should pull it out randomly and start playing it and see what she does.
I'd be like,
Headache, migraine. Don't do this anymore.
and then tell him what you've done for each one of our kids.
For each of the kids, they have their own piano composition.
So when they were born, or like you'd sit down after the baby was home screaming and you're tired, you're like, all right, it's time to write some music. Like at that moment, or was it like a few months later?
Some a few months later, some right before they were born, but all four of them shortly when they were born.
And they have those. They can. And they're how old are your kids now?
27, 24, 21, and 18.
Wow. So they like appreciate that you've done that, and that was years ago. You recorded them and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, that's multi-talented.
Last year for Christmas, one of the gifts that the kids gave to him was to have him go to Dane's Music and do a performance of all of their songs. And they're like, oh, remember when you wrote this? And like it was so meaningful to them
You
that
did that?
he
Yeah.
got to play their songs
Wow.
for
So
them.
they videotaped it, and so
Yeah.
they have the story behind the songs, and I play the song on the grand piano there. And
You should do a video talking about when you're writing them, like what
Yeah.
the notes meant and like the chords and why you did certain things. 'Cause that'd mean a
Yeah.
lot to have context from your mouth, like saying what it was, like a director's like commentary on the music.
That's
Well,
kind of what we recorded.
yeah.
Like, I did this in 3/4 because PJ was our third child.
Oh,
and-
really?
yeah.
That's clever. 3/4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Third child, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So every single kid has a song, and then you have a song. Do you have your own song?
I think my body of work probably is. So
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Okay, there's not one defining song. This is my song. Okay. Do you have a favorite song you've written that you play?
It changes.
It changes?
It's probably the latest one.
I
It's
can't
usually
tackle
the
it
favorite.
down.
Yeah.
And then have you inherited any of the music genius? Or are you like enjoying it? You're
Oh,
a good,
come
you're a
on.
good audience member.
You
I mean, I play the
piano.
piano, I sing a little bit, but
lead music.
nothing like this. He's incredible.
So a couple weeks ago, she led the music in church, and then I played the organ. So
Oh boy.
Wow. So I feel like if you play piano, you tend to get called to play piano frequently at church.
yes,
It's something of a curse, I would say, or a blessing.
blessing and a curse. It's a perfect way to say it.
He's talented. You're just gifted. You didn't have to practice at all.
I think we're the only two at this point who play the organ in our ward.
Yeah, we can't go on trips.
Organ's way different because you've got to hold the note and then walk your fingers across the note like
Yeah.
some weirdo going across the
I
note.
did an organ
Yeah.
training class for the stake, trying to get more people to know how to do it.
You
so.
you hosted the training class,
Yeah.
so you know all the proper like holdings of fingers and
He
things.
does the foot pedals.
Oh, that's like drum kit. That's like playing drums.
Yeah. I use the bass coupler.
I,
He
I
does
still
the
say I'm a
pedals.
piano player playing organ, but it works out.
Yeah, that's
You're
like
really
as
good.
legit as you can get in like church. Is like
Yeah.
using the foot pedals is like
Yeah.
extreme sports.
It
Yes.
sounds so much better.
Yeah.
Got that good bass.
Yeah,
Good
people
stuff.
want the bass, you know. Yeah. So you've done a lot with music and with history. So history, this is something that I feel like we haven't picked on yet. So we know all your reasons for your studies. History.
History is a pre-law because I like history.
Pre-law.
And history is great for going to law school.
So why is that? I don't know. I've never studied law or history really, besides experiencing it.
Think of law school as a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and a lot of trying to formulate ideas and make arguments.
Okay.
And if you're a history major, I mean, that's what you're doing. You're reading about history, you're writing papers about it, so you have to get good at English for that. And there are times that they'll say, say what, the Americans' bombing of Hiroshima, which was actually my senior paper. So you're able
What
to
a
take a
hard
position
thing.
on that.
Yeah.
Have your position, have the evidence that supports it, to be able to look at the other side as well. And it's one of the perfect majors for a pre-law major.
Did you get to pick what you were studying, or was it something that was like you had 3 options and that's your choice?
No, I started out as a chemistry major and couldn't quite figure out what things were. And my uncle gave me a C- in second year algebra and second year
Your uncle
calculus.
gave you a C. There's
Yeah.
a detail in there that's so specific.
Dr. Harvey Fletcher, Uncle Harvey, I will never forget you.
Is he still alive? Is he?
No, he passed away
Okay,
a few years
you
ago.
can't watch this and hear that. Dang it.
I love Uncle Harvey. I stayed with my aunt and uncle my first year at BYU, matter of fact.
And he was
But,
your teacher as well?
but he was my teacher
What
my
kind of
second year.
experience is that? That's wild.
One that makes him switch his major.
He had some trauma, very different trauma.
Yes.
But he
Yes.
has so much-
But my cousin had been dating someone, and it turned out that the person who she was dating, his father was the dean of the law school at BYU.
Her father.
Her father. No, his father.
Oh, Judy was dating him.
Judy was
Yeah,
dating
yeah.
him, so his father.
There was a
And,
person that was close to someone that was the father.
and said, "Hey, you should go listen to him. He's going to talk about why law is a good thing to do." And
Yeah.
so I listened to it, and I was convinced. I said, "I'm going to switch majors. I'm going to become a lawyer."
And you were minoring in music, but was that initially a major at any point? Like,
No.
because you're so good, but it was always a minor.
My mom pretty
Yeah.
much told me if I took music and majored in it, she'd disown me. So
She didn't think
A
he
little more
could
trauma
support his
sprinkles on
family.
this.
Yes.
The trauma
Trauma
donut.
sprinkles. I love that.
she didn't think I could make money doing music. She's like, "Just don't go into music. Lawyer, I can deal with that. That's fine."
I think it's like if your family's really good at music, they're almost convinced you'll never make it because they haven't made it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Interesting. So you listened to him speak about law, and then you kind of were like, "This is it. Chemistry's not."
I
this is
was drawn to the idea, and he said, as an attorney, you are someone that is in a position to be able to help people. Because when someone comes to you and says, "I need help," you're usually the last option they have,
and they're desperate.
and they're desperate. And so He says, if you want to serve people and be able to do some good in the world, so to speak, become an attorney, because there are many opportunities to be able to do that.
And that drew you in, was that kind of, I can help people. Was this before service, church service, or was it after?
Just before church service, but by the end of my mission, I definitely switched my major over. And plus, with history, I had already taken a lot of the prerequisites. I was able to get through the rest of the major stuff in 2 years, then graduated in 92.
And he actually graduated early from high school and had 2 years of college.
Yeah.
Before he left on his mission.
So I was 17 when he started.
No way. So you're at BYU at 17. That's also traumatic. You're there with a bunch of adults.
It was interesting.
Did you enjoy that, or was it stressful? Were you I have to keep up? Because think about it, they're years ahead of you.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine?
I even lived off campus, so
What stresses this guy
I wasn't
out?
around any freshmen.
Me? Our kids.
Kids come wide.
Kids. So is it girls, boy? I didn't ask the age. I know the ages, but what's the order of?
So Amanda, Natalie, Paul, Joseph, who we call PJ, and then Emily.
Cool.
Girl, boy, girl.
And for this short 6-week period, we can go 27, 24, 21, 18, until our 18-year-old turns 19.
Yeah.
Then it
Yeah.
throws the whole thing off.
Then it's all out of whack.
But they're all
My OCD is
basically
now,
about 3 years apart.
Yeah.
Because they
2.5.
born in 97, 2000, 2003, 2006.
Yep.
Yeah, and that surety of doing law, it pushed you it drove you to keep going, and then you had to pursue. Once you finished history, because it's interesting. It's not a law degree when you're.
I
doing
wasn't
it.
going to be a history teacher.
But you were sitting there. There was a bunch of guys that were and girls, history, teaching. That's what I want to do, education. But you were I have to get through this to get to that. So how was it? Did you feel like you had to kind of deal with it, or were you still enjoying the history part of it?
Oh, I still love history.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so you enjoyed the history part. Okay,
Yeah, very much so.
but it's it was a passage to law school.
Yeah. And as a fun footnote, second daughter Natalie was a history major at BYU and is now in law school at BYU.
Really?
So
And was there a law school at BYU when you were going? Or?
there was.
Okay.
Didn't make it in.
Okay. It's don't ask me.
That's Ohio.
Yeah. Well, Ohio is impressive. I think to move and go to a different school is impressive in itself because you have to apply, move, commit, live, and do all
Good
that.
experience.
It was
too.
good
And
experience.
it gets you out of the bubble of BYU is a great bubble to be in, but it's also a bubble in the sense that it's BYU.
And to practice law for 10 years in Ohio was a great experience for me.
So once you finished school, you stayed. You're we're going to stay here and figure this out.
Yep.
There was no. So I guess what made you guys want to stay? Was it just it was familiar and you could see the sun go down behind the ground?
Because it's flat.
I mean, there were trees and it was hazy. We actually really liked it there. I think that all of our connections were there. We really enjoyed what we were doing. I had a job there. I taught French and Spanish at Upper Arlington High School right next to the Ohio State University and got to take students to Europe every year.
Did you make that happen or was it an existing thing?
A couple of my colleagues and I can't believe, now that I'm a parent, I'm what were you thinking?
Well, I would trust you with my kids.
I'm
just barely
24. I'm 24 years old, and I'm hey, can I take your kids halfway around the world for 2 weeks?
You had no kids yet?
No. I'm 24 years old, and they're that sounds right. Here you go.
Well, because you were an adult. You had grown up at 6 years old, so you were ready for anything.
Right.
Yeah,
24-year-old adult.
Well, I will
24-year-old
never
adult.
forget stepping off the plane in Paris with 35 other people with me and thinking, okay, who's in charge? What's going on here? And then having this realization, oh crap, it's me. I'm the one. I'm in charge. What do I do? And being get it together. You can do this. And
All right, where's the roads? I can't read roads. I can read road signs. Hold on. I can read. Wait, can I speak this language well enough to do this?
Right. Just oh, I'm 5 years older than some of these kids, 5, 6 years older than these kids, and I'm in charge. And why did their parents let them do this? But we had a great time, and we did that several different years.
Different years. And you kind of created the experience for them. That's incredible. That's just as impressive as writing music, I think. You're writing an experience. It's like you're creating that,
And then Paul had all of his law school contacts and judges that he worked with in appellate court. And
I'm working at the Court of Appeals there, 12th and 10th districts for 5.5 years. So,
do you guys ever put on the wigs, the powdered wigs?
No,
Pretend.
no.
Just for a day?
I do remember opening court with a law clerk is saying oyez, oyez, oyez. And
You did?
It's just hear ye, hear ye.
Yeah.
This
So-
court now in session.
So what I'm dying to ask is, you had to go past the bar and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's like a rite of passage situation. I would say becoming a lawyer is like the same thing as becoming a doctor, if that makes sense. I see it as the same level of
Because it
experience.
is a doctorate.
Yeah. He puts his nose
We
up
don't
in the
ever
air,
fight about that.
looks around. It's a doctorate.
It's a real doctorate.
I'm just the one who gets to be called Dr. Tonks.
There's arts and sciences.
Juris Doctor, JD.
Mine's a doctorate of
So
philosophy.
how was that going through that? So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well, the easy thing about taking the bar is you study really hard for it, and you're sending your
that's
wife,
the easy part, right?
and then you send your wife to Europe so you can study really hard.
I took students to Europe and stayed after for a couple of weeks.
She was gone for 3
It's a
weeks.
win-win.
It's to take one for the team while I study for the bar and pass the bar.
I'm
in
kind of
Ohio.
great that way. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
You can just disappear when you need to and reappear.
Right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We can add a smoke effect and just erase you from
Right.
there.
Well, he told me find
revoir.
somewhere to go. Go find something to do because otherwise
France,
you're bugging me.
Spain, Germany.
We went all over Europe. It was
Yeah,
great.
it's au revoir is by, right?
Au revoir,
Oh, yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah, there we go. See, I know like 2 words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, un peu, right?
Yep.
And then have you learned any languages
No.
being together?
Other than
Yeah.
a little Latin and for
He speaks the language of music, so.
Language of love,
Yes.
music. Yeah.
And he's so romantic. Like, can you even with this?
so romantic.
He's like, what are you talking about?
He
ever
used
use
to
that?
be
Gotta be
so
honest here.
romantic.
I haven't used that phrase with me in years.
I'm a lawyer, hon. I can't be romantic. I have to follow the rules.
Okay, you used to be romantic. Wait a minute, what happened to you? Is
Became
that
a lawyer.
better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a lawyer. But lawyers, you seem really passionate about both of your careers still. So I can sense the excitement and the energy behind the school and the teaching, and then the managing of it. And then I can sense that you deeply love what you do. So what do you do now?
I am currently working at Adobe.
Okay.
I'm a senior associate attorney there, and I work with basically contract negotiations.
That's a startup here in Utah, right?
Yeah. So been there for 2.5 years, and it's just down the hill here, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Easiest commute I've ever had, which is like 15 minutes from here.
That's true. It's like right off the road.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
down the mountain.
And then prior to that, I was 14 years at the Attorney General's office in Utah
Okay.
as an assistant attorney general.
Did you enjoy that role? That's an interesting position
Yeah,
to be in.
that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Court work, I did basically everything that you think a lawyer would do.
So being a lawyer and living in Suncrest, you got to experience changes over time.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to frame the position here is, you care a lot about the community being good and being progressive in the way that helps it grow, but in a meaningful way. And I think lawyers and people who have active business in the community, they want the community to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So you have an invested interest. It's not just one person acting; it's both of you. So I'm going to say both of you acted together,
Yeah.
but you had kind of the background to get things into the law,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
so
I might do
fill
the-
me, yeah.
Yeah, I might do the legal stuff, but then moving people and convincing people, that was more DeLaina.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say any good pairing of people can move a mountain, theoretically speaking. So fill me in. What has happened? I don't know. I have notes from you about what I need to ask, but I want you to give me the story of what happened and what you've done to improve the community.
Well, I'll start and then you can finish
Yeah,
this.
I'm excited to hear
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Are you going to start with the postcard in the
Yes,
mailbox?
that's
they've
exactly
told
what
the story before.
So-
They're already
Just making
prepping
sure.
themselves.
So
You got
we-
the sock puppet part,
we've
right?
done this a few times.
Right.
So we get a postcard in the mail, and it says, "We are forming up a brand new school district, and this new school district, and they eventually named it the Canyon School District." And they said, and one part about it is that we are going to have the elementary school be on the Salt Lake County side because they were forming this school district. All of Draper had to be in one school district, which meant we were no longer be part of Ridgeline Elementary or Lone Peak or those, even though we lived in Utah County. So we just did nothing about it.
This was like 06, 07.
07.
07.
So you've been here a year, you're like, okay, we're settled. Dust
for
is
a
still
year.
in the air, but we're like
Yeah.
looking at the horizon here.
Yeah.
And there's stuff happening. Okay.
Yeah, so they drew the school district split from Jordan into canyons around municipal boundaries. So we live on this mountain, and the boundaries for the school district went all the way down to Maple Hollow, and everybody down there would have to go up and over the mountain. And they didn't boundary us to the closest schools. They boundaried us to schools in Sandy, so that we would have to drive by 3 or 4 different elementary schools and go to Jordan High School. That's where they put us for the boundary schools. And they couldn't bus us because the grade on the north side of the mountain is too steep. So we would have to drive our own kids into Sandy to go to school. There were people who put their houses up for sale. Like, we had quite a few neighbors actually move. The housing prices were tanking, not just because it was 2006 and
You're like
the bubble
late
burst,
20s,
but-
like you're like 20, like 30, maybe 30. Like, you were like still a young mom.
We're in the 30s.
late 30s.
Late 30s, still a young mom, you know.
Yeah. And I'm lazy. I didn't want to drive my kids to 3 different schools and live in the car all day, driving my kids everywhere.
They could take you by bus, but they have to go down the south side, drive around the point of the mountain, and then get you
That
to the
was
school.
one of
Which
the
I call the
options.
gauntlet, by the way. It's the gauntlet.
Yeah.
It's like an hour-long thing. Yeah.
And Alpine School District had built Ridgeline Elementary specifically to handle all of the Suncrest kids. So it didn't make any sense.
And it had only been open for a year.
Yeah.
So why didn't they make that connection themselves?
It was just an unintended consequence. So I started calling legislators and called Senator Carlene Walker.
Well, because originally we asked about it, and they said, well, it's just the way it is. You can't do anything about it. Live with it.
They told you, a lawyer, that.
That was Draper City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
So when you were told that, were you upset, or were you more like, we're going to solve this? There's a solution. Like,
Well, we had some interesting conversations, like, should we sell our house? Should we leave? And they were like,
did you?
no, we built this house. We love this view. We love this area. And we decided to reach out to the community. We have such a great community up here. You know that better than anybody,
I love
right?
this place. Yeah.
And so,
because you guys made it this way. Yeah.
well, trauma bonding, I'm telling you, it is a real
It's
thing.
real.
It is. So we reached out to the community and had so many, just dozens of volunteers do marketing and community outreach and getting everybody in the community understanding what was going on. And so we held meetings, and we invited city council members up to the village green. We deliberately put them on bar stools so that they would be uncomfortable. We didn't give them comfy chairs to sit in.
Really?
And Vic Carsey had his sound system set up, and we had microphones, and we had Representative John Dougal from Highland, who was our representative, come up. We had Jeff Stenquist, we had Howard Stevenson, Greg Hughes came flying in by the seat of his pants at the last minute. So we had all of these politicians come up, and we sat them on these bar stools, and then we had a microphone and just basically had open mic night with all the angry neighbors from Suncrest, like, why are you doing this to our kids? And at one point, John Dougal was saying, well, we'll fix this in the legislative session, which is next January, February, March. Well, the vote for the school district split was in November, and I took the microphone and I said, you're a politician. How can we trust you? And I shoved the microphone in his face. And I learned later that it was his 16th anniversary, and he had brought his wife up for their date night on their anniversary to be yelled at by all of the...
So you were like mad.
So mad.
Wow.
Like, why are you doing this? Can't you see how terrible this is? Our entire community, and it's just going to grow. This is not a problem that's going to go away.
I'm surprised you didn't run for office. I could see you being good.
No.
Yeah.
No. So John came over to our house and sat down at our kitchen table with Paul, looked at the legislation and said, how about we stop it at the county line instead of going all the way around the Draper City boundaries? And we're like, okay, that could work. And then I had to do a bunch of research to make sure it wouldn't create an unintended consequence for some other school district if it was, if it straddled a county line.
Wow.
So we did all of that research, and
it's still just kind of a fun thing to say. At our kitchen table, John Dougal and I wrote the legislation that eventually was part of a special session that they called before the November election.
Yeah.
That's
to
like
change the
real
statute.
history. It's like history. You're like living history.
Yeah.
Well, and if people don't know, our legislative session is January to March of every year, and that's it. They have interim days once a month, but you don't call the legislature into session to pass bills and vote except for from January to March. But we caused a big enough stink up here. All of our Suncrest neighbors, and a bunch of them are still up here.
What did the Sandy
absolutely
mayor say?
Amazing. I
When you
will
all
get to
showed
that in
up? Okay.
2 seconds. But they called a special session of the legislature that met in August of 2007 to fix this legislation because we were making such a big ruckus about it. So Tom Dolan, the Sandy mayor, told John Dougal, "I don't care what you have to do to shut these people up. They are ruining the Canyons and Jordan District split bill that we want to go through.
Yeah.
Give them whatever they want." And so
Wow.
they called a special session and allowed us to change the law so that it stopped at the county line to leave us in Alpine School District, where the buses could come up the mountain and get the kids and take them to the schools, and then everybody else would be in Canyons. And that feels, sometimes I'm like, oh, it would be really nice if all of Draper or all of Suncrest were in the same school district, but the topography doesn't really allow for that.
Give you the chance to do that unless
Yeah.
there's a school up here on the mountain, like the
Right.
firehouse.
Yeah.
Right.
But even that would be like 10 kids per class, which would be actually kind of awesome.
When we moved here, that was supposed to be a thing. That's what we were told. Oh, we're going to build a school in Suncrest, and it'll
We
be
got
all.
the fire station.
We're still waiting for the school. So
So all the residents in Utah County were still going to be part of Alpine School District, but then the people in Salt Lake County up in Suncrest, they had an option to be able to go to either.
Which I think we
Canyon
had that
School.
option. That's because you guys did that?
Yes.
Wow.
that was
well,
the
thank
next
you.
year.
Yes.
That
Because
was
we were like picked and we were like, we can pick and choose. This is awesome. So it wasn't always that way.
No, we had to
Yeah.
work with Representative Greg Hughes worked with us on that
Okay.
one and found an existing statute that dealt with transportation. And so we just wrote a little line in there that said if transportation is not available within the district that you are boundaried into, and it is in a adjacent district, you can go to that adjacent district without having a permit. So that's why if you're in Salt Lake District, if you're in if you're in Canyons District, you can go to the Alpine District schools without having to be on a permit. It doesn't work the other way because of the transportation.
Do you feel like your skill with languages and catching patterns and things makes it easier to find those things? Because I feel like that's a language. When you start talking about things like that, it's almost like it's its own language of doing things.
Maybe.
And I feel
had
like
never
you're
thought about
understanding
that.
it almost intuitively, right? Where I'm hearing, I'm like, how did you figure this out? That's like a Rubik's Cube with no instructions. Like, how did you even find the solution?
Oh,
So
this guy, and he's the one that, because I didn't know anything about politics. I
He was
didn't
your
know how
chat
to-
GPT before it
Yes,
existed.
yes.
like you need to talk to this person. This is a mover. These are who are making the decisions.
And I'll never forget because you were like, well, you have to figure out who the decision maker is. If the legislature is the one who decides this and you're yelling at Draper City, it's not going to do any good.
You're just yelling at the wrong person. They're
It's
not
like
gonna-
going through the Wendy's drive-through and screaming at them because Taco Bell got your order wrong. Like it's not the right person. They don't have any ownership.
Or you want
over
better
it.
fries. They're not
Right.
going to change the fries.
Right.
This is a Wendy's.
Right.
but as
So
part
that
of
was
this,
super helpful.
but as part of this, we set up a Facebook group that was called Better Boundaries.
That sounds like a good band name, by the way.
has always been called Suncrest Residents.
But that morphed over to Suncrest Residents.
Yeah.
Once that was done, we're like, well, we have this Facebook group. Well, we already have the boundaries done. Let's rename the Facebook group, and we renamed it as Suncrest Residents.
I thought it was always called Suncrest.
Better Boundaries is such a catchy name, though. Like, did you have like signage and stuff made?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
had a logo.
Look at you guys go.
Well,
Little
no, it was-
suns, that they
No
put on.
way.
It was our
You did?
community. It was
I
our
love
community. It was one of our residents who did, we had like committees and, we had a communications committee and we had a,
You organize all this?
well, it was the community. Like
Yeah.
we all got together.
Wow.
We had a committee that met and was in, everybody who was in charge of a different piece of it, we'd all get together and be like, okay, what do we want to do? What's our strategy? And Paul was really instrumental in the strategy piece. And then our entire community just came together and implemented it.
So
It was
once
awesome.
that was tied off with a bow, let's say, like it was solved, and now you could pick and choose. You couldn't move after that. You're like, I have to stay.
I think we're pretty much part of the community at that point.
Yeah.
That was like
We're
that was
great.
the trauma that was
Right.
the trauma moment then. Like you used to have these critical moments
Right.
where you have a bonding moment with something and then you stick with it.
Right. So then it's really funny because people move in, it's been 18 years, and they'll say, well, wait a minute, why aren't we in the Canyons District along with everybody else in Draper? And it's like, well, there's a history here, and here's what it is. And
And if you
it's
watch
just
this
good.
podcast I was on, you can learn all about it.
Right. here's what happened.
There's a podcast up here? No, don't worry about it.
Talk to Jordan.
Besides having the kids in the right places,
Yeah.
one of the outgrowths of it was Suncrest Residents Facebook group.
And correct me if I'm wrong, your admin's on the page. Okay. So are both of you admins on the page?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ruckus in there. So you guys have like a second job.
Every once in a while.
It's such an interesting page, by
Yeah.
the way. Like I've never experienced a Facebook page like this before, and it made me redefine what I didn't delete the app because of the page. Like I was like not going to
Oh.
use the app anymore, and I was like,
Interesting.
Marketplace is what I kept. But then like there was like
Yeah.
I didn't use any other pages anymore except for my family's page, right? Then I have my family's page and then Suncrest Residents. That's all I look at. Yeah.
Honestly, that's about where I am at,
Yeah.
too.
It's such a great because you guys keep it good. You know, honestly, yeah.
And you know, big shout out to Brittany Hansen and Rachel Lucas. They do most of the stuff.
Rachel, she's killing it. She's finding those bad guys. If you need your ductwork cleaned, I know a guy. She knows a guy.
Right.
We all know ductwork.
Every single day, the scammer's like, it must work, or they wouldn't do it.
Well, it
right?
ductworks.
Good grief. So, yeah, they do most of the management. I'll step in for final say if there's some big.
So you're kind of like
Thing,
you're like, okay, it's almost like the legal counsel of a sort, kind of a thing.
Well, if it
I'm
gets
the
really bad,
tiebreaker.
then they go to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
most of the
he's-
time,
he's the
I don't get
back-
involved.
He's
Like,
my backstop.
what is this? Oh, man.
Can we do
Peter?
this? Like, yeah.
Peter. Peter.
It's usually Peter's fault or Nate Kingdon. Sorry, love you guys.
I want to get Nate Kingdon on here because I haven't met him.
You should definitely have Nate on. He's
It'd be fun.
fabulous.
Yeah, if he wants to come on, I'm not going to force him to come on.
I would force him to come on.
If you don't want to
Nate,
come on, you don't have
get
to.
it together.
But the page is great, and you mentioned we cover everything that you mentioned that you guys have done because you've done that, but there's also other things you've also added to the community over time. That was the initial big thing.
That's all I've done.
Yeah.
Paul's done a lot with the HOA.
So tell me about the because that's like more to that. Right.
So once we got through the boundary issue, we got into 2008, which, shall we say, is the mortgage crisis and the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And one of the groups that really got affected were the builders of Suncrest Community. And it was a company called Suncrest LLC. And to the point that they actually went belly up. They went bankrupt. But they also had, as part of it, an owners association, which oversaw all the houses and have regulations and things like that. Completely done by the developer. But then at a certain build-out point, they had one position that was supposed to be covered by someone that lived in Suncrest. So you'd have 4 people from Suncrest LLC, and then you'd have one resident. We had one person not be nominated and was the first person on there. She moved, and then I was brought in to be the one representative of Suncrest on this board.
Wow.
So they go belly up. It gets sold to Zion. Zion's held the bank note for basically the properties that they had borrowed the money.
The
on.
bank, not the park.
Yeah, the bank. Yeah, Zion's bank.
For all those new residents
would've been
here,
cool, though.
for all the new residents, it's not
Yeah.
the park you go
Right.
to; it's the bank.
Right.
And so we get this brand new board that comes in from Zion's. They have no idea what it is. They're forced upon this. They're now in charge of
They
all this property.
acquired all the stuff that they had
Yeah.
left.
And I'm the one person that's there saying, so let me tell you about Suncrest. Here's what we're doing. And one of the most significant things that was part of it is that they also had assets that were half-built buildings, including the clubhouse,
Which wasn't done. It was like
which was not done.
yeah.
And so at one point, as we're doing our regular board meetings for the OA, they asked the question, what should we do about the clubhouse? We're thinking about just selling it off or doing something. And I was able to convince Zion's Bank that it would be a disservice to the people that are here who built their homes here, thinking that this is going to be here as a clubhouse, someplace we can gather, someplace where we have this pool. And if you sell that off, it's going to hurt the community.
Yeah.
And so they decided, you're right, we're going to spend $2 million to finish this clubhouse. And
This was after you by yourself standing there
Yes.
saying words.
I am the one person
Wow.
on the board, so I convinced the other four board members in Zions Bank to spend the $2 million to finish the clubhouse, finish the pool. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and Zions Bank and I were the two
giant
that-
scissors?
for the big
Do you have
giant scissors.
Yeah.
Is there a picture of this?
There is. There
It's
is.
on Suncrest Residence somewhere.
It is?
Yeah, back a few years.
Oh, wow.
And it actually helped the value of the properties that they had. So Zions Bank then sold it to Draper City. Then I was still the one person on the board when Draper City came in. And then I was able to convince Draper City that, there's not going to be that much building out here. Why don't you give the whole OA board over to the residents? Even though there's supposed to be a build out and a certain percentage at certain points, we're never going to reach 3,200 homes. It's not going to happen. And Draper City gave the whole board over to us. And so that's why right now for the Suncrest Owners Association, all 5 board members are from Suncrest.
So that's part of the agreement is that they have to be from and that's why we have local elections.
So that's why we have that now.
Wow.
And
that
then-
was all because you were doing that.
I was doing that. So,
Wow.
but once everything got running and I didn't have any desire to be around to figure out what pool times were and things like that.
Yeah.
Once the structure was up and running, I was
Yeah,
able
right.
to step back.
It had legs that you could let it do.
And it's,
So it's like you love history, but you're also involved in history. It's like you're making your own historical
Well,
landmarks.
It's my community as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've had birthday parties there, and without that clubhouse, I mean, we as a community we wouldn't be able to come together as much as what we do. So I'm just happy that I was able to be involved in that and convince Zions to spend the money and build it and finish it out.
Wow. So do you still feel that drive to be engaged, or you feel like it's still in a good place? Do you ever feel the desire or need to give more? I don't really deal with politics. I'm just like, I don't want stuff bad happening. That's
not
pretty
the
much
OA
it.
board. Not the OA board. I stepped away, but then we had one more issue that came up that I stepped in, and it's with what's called the Traverse Ridge Special Service District.
Okay.
And basically, we live here. We get this special service of having snow plowing and stuff that's provided. We have an extra tax that's there because we are basically a political entity as part of Draper City. Well, Draper City at one point thought it'd be a great idea to use that taxing entity of TRSSD to rebuild Deer Ridge Drive over here. And it was going to cost $2 to $3 million. And they were just going to charge the residents in Suncrest.
Ooh.
And some of us...
TRSSD had been set up for very specific purposes, and doing the road work was outside the scope of the authority of the
Kind of a legal use of funds in a certain degree. Like it was a gray area.
Yeah.
Like,
So a few of us, Simone Cantalero, Amy Baird, we looked at how TRSSD was originally formed. Noticed that there was a line in there saying that TRSSD funds can be paid for, can be used for building roads or rehabilitating roads. It was actually taken out by Draper City Council, and we thought that was significant. So we took the stand that TRSSD, and by this point I was on the TRSSD board appointed by Draper City, and filed a lawsuit against Draper City for.
you did by yourself? How does this guy relax? What does your relaxing look like? What do you do for fun?
Sue City Hall, of course.
This is what I do for fun, dude.
So the TRSSD sued Draper City.
Yeah, it wasn't him by himself. It was the
That was a group.
Special
It was a
Service
whole
District.
So you had set it up as the lawyer, essentially.
And then we hired counsel to
Okay.
carry it out for basically what's called a declaratory judgment to say TRSSD is not required to pay this $2 to $3 million for this road. And it made it all the way. We had all sorts of negotiations with Draper City. I probably attended 5 different settlement conferences with them. It eventually made it on motion to the judge, and the judge found in TRSSD's favor. And so here on out, forever, TRSSD and the Suncrest residents are not going to be taxed to pay for the rebuilding of roads.
You're like a magician with legal stuff. It's like it's a card trick. You're like, and now it's an ace.
And it was actually kind of funny because Draper
That's
City
incredible.
just kept saying, so you're going to lose, you're going to lose. I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing. We're going to win.
You're both fiercely competitive. You're not going to lose. You didn't lose on the school thing. You're not
Yeah.
losing on this. This is trivial compared to the school thing at the time.
Yeah.
But it's a huge deal because
And it was helpful to Draper City because it clarified for them. You had to have some sort of an answer that lived outside the scope of authority that Draper City could control or that TRSSD could control, and only the courts could do that. So it was actually helpful to Draper City to say, hey, look, the court said that there's nothing we can
have
do
no
about
choice.
it, right? So it gives them some cover. That's my perspective.
So how much of this do you enjoy? Obviously, you enjoy keeping the community nice. But is this like is it like something you do you find joy in like the details and like is that tedious? Because getting a doctor's appointment set up for me is like I'm like, oh no, what's my insurance? Crap, is it Blue Cross? What's a deductible? I don't know. Like, is that natural for you? Or is it take a lot of work?
I'm going to say it goes back to the whole idea of why am I an attorney?
Yeah.
The opportunity to be able to help people. And
Get that
in
loop.
this case, this would have been thousands of dollars paid by every single resident to pay for a road that should, well, because it is a city street, the city should be paid for that. And they found money to be able to take care of things without taxing us just for that.
And that's how you tell a story, folks. What an incredible journey that is. So from then to now, you kind of, most of that dust is settled. The community kind of being built by you and your hand in it has made it a place that's attracted a lot of people to move here. So now you're in a new position. What are you seeing on the horizon? So what's on your horizon besides just the beautiful view and the sun and the mountains? What else is in
I
there?
think we're good at this point.
I think we've handed a lot
I don't
off
believe it.
to other people, and I mean, we have so many great people in this community. We're not everybody is a part of
This is a group effort on
process.
every single one of
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
We could not do it by ourselves
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. It takes a village.
It
And this
really
is a
does,
village.
and we've got a great village, and
You got a cool village.
yeah. And we love when
Yeah.
winter comes along because then people bond over, oh my gosh, can you believe the snow? The snow is the enemy, so to speak, and we're not fighting with each other. So we love it when winter comes along, especially on the Suncrest residents page.
Yeah, I just love that like people help each other a lot more in
Yeah.
the winters, and there's also a lot of people that are really advocating for people to stay.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of Suncrest.
Yeah.
Is people are like, oh, you're not going to make it a single. No, I never had anyone tell me that when
Yeah.
I moved here. They didn't say you're not going to make it through the winter. They said, I'll tell you what to buy. I'll come blow your
Yeah.
driveway off. I'll help. Like people wanted me to stay, and they
Yeah.
didn't know who I was. And COVID had been happening, and I was like, I can't believe people want me to. They're like advocating for my success here, and that's because the community attracts people that want a place to thrive. So,
And we love it that we talk about Suncrest as being it is the Suncrest community. We are a community. We pull together. We have pulled together on other issues in the past, but have this commonality. Be able to go to the community center, go to the ridge, see each other as we're snow blowing in the middle of the winter. It's a great place to live, and I mean we've enjoyed it for 18 years and planning on being here for quite a while still.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on this podcast, which is a new thing we're trying in Suncrest.
Love it.
And I want, if you're blessing on it, I'm trying to make sure that people feel comfortable to come on like yourselves and just meet you. Because the winter, people hibernate. We go into our bear caves and we burrow in. But I think this is a nice excuse to meet somebody. And when the farmer's market happens, talk to these people. They're very friendly.
Yeah.
they're not scary.
I just think it's really great that you're taking your time and spending your time and talent and resources to help the Suncrest community get to know each other a little bit better in a different format, especially during the winter when we're all burrowing inside our homes. So thank you so much for doing this. You make our community better.
This is just a sprinkle on the sprinkles of things you guys have done. It's one singular sprinkle.
Well,
it means a lot to hear that from you guys.
But I mean, when I saw these podcasts on Suncrest residents, and I just thought that is such a great thing. And then when you asked me for, it, I'm like, absolutely,
I'll do it.
I would love to do it because
Yeah.
I think there's a story to tell about Suncrest, and it's made up of all the individuals that live here in Suncrest,
Yeah.
and you're telling it through this podcast.
Well, you're telling it. I'm just listening. I'm part of the audience listening.
Yeah.
Really. You're really
Listen,
telling the story.
everybody should do this. It's how we get to know each other. So do
And
it.
if you don't want to, it's okay.
No, it's not. Just do it.
But thank you once again. I know we're probably about at time. I haven't been tracking the time. But what a lovely couple. Great to have you as neighbors, not just neighbors, but as friends now.
Yes.
And I look forward to bumping into you guys more often. Maybe out in the snow. I'll help you shovel your driveway.
Probably.
All right.
Thank
I don't know how
you.
to end these, but I've been told we need a catchphrase or something. But I still don't know how to end these, so we're just kind of.
Well, you have
Thank
to come
you.
up with the catchphrase. Is
It'll
how
find
it works.
itself.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Bye.